Hello everyone, it is Nicholas from Aussie MONEYMAN. So in this video, I want to tell you guys why I rent. So renting versus buying in Australia is basically one of the most misunderstood financial decisions in Australia, definitely, but probably the world, but definitely in Australia. It's basically on par with understanding how to invest in the stock market and what does work and doesn't work according to studies, to literature, to actual experts. All right, so there's a lot of issues there. So basically, I've thought about this a lot. That's one thing I want you guys to know when I talk about this stuff. I've thought about this a lot. I'm the sort of person that before I buy anything will research every available option on the market, almost everything I buy. Okay, now the reason that's significant is, well, look, there's a few reasons, but basically it means that I've thought about it. I'm very on top of my finances, so that's just something to think about. I actually was watching an Economics Explained video recently, and you guys probably have seen that channel because it actually is run by an Australian, and of course this is an Australian personal finance channel, although of course if you're not from Australia, you're very much welcome to watch these videos. I hope they help everyone. And basically he was explaining an economic concept, and he basically was like, well, who compares every option on the market, and that's why markets operate the way they do, and it was specific to the example, but nonetheless the point is not many people do that. Okay, so when I'm talking about this stuff and I say I've thought about this a lot, you can believe I have. Now, in this specific video itself, I'm just going to be telling you guys why I rent. Okay, not why you should rent, why I rent. Then in a future video, I'll do a whole video, and I'm going to record that basically right after this video. I'm explaining why maybe you should be renting. Not that you should. There's many cases to buy, but why perhaps you should. And the argument that I'm going to be making in that video, and it might already be out at the time of you watching this video, it probably is. If it isn't, hit subscribe, please hit like on this video as well, and you'll be able to see that video. But basically, the point of that video is going to be why buying is not necessarily better than renting. Not why renting is better than buying. It's just to sort of really break up this idea that buying is always better and renting is dead money. It's wrong, it's factually incorrect, and that thinking is flawed. It is very much flawed. Now, basically, what I'm going to be doing again in this video is just talking about my reasons, and then we'll jump into that whole, controversial nitty-gritty discussion soon enough. I'm aware that Brandon from New Money, formerly AWC Brandon, or Aussie Wealth Creation, he made a video sort of talking about rent vesting essentially, and he got a lot of criticism for it, and some of it was justified, but a lot of it was people making comments that were based off flawed thinking. So that's what's really inspired that upcoming video. And this video itself is largely because, I keep mentioning I'm renting when I talk about my expenses video and stuff like that. I had a lot of people sort of commenting, well, why are you renting? Because, by my income and my net worth update videos, you guys know I can afford to buy. Okay, so it's like, well, why aren't you buying? Let's jump into that. Please hit like on the video. Please make sure to check out the description of this video. There's a bunch of links there, ways to make extra money, eToro's bonus deal, our ebook, our Facebook group where we talk about all these things. You can check out the community tab on this channel, building a bit of an Aussie finance community there. So check out the description below while you watch the video. With that said, let's jump into the reasons why I choose to rent. Alright guys, so just two real quick points I want to make sort of clear, and I'll sort of reiterate those in this upcoming video, which again might be out when you're watching this video, where I discuss the reasons why maybe you should be renting perhaps. And the first one is basically the fact that a lot of people approach finance and they approach most things in their life from an emotional perspective. So they're not thinking rationally, and then already they're not using the facts, they're not using science, they're thinking emotionally. Okay? And the second part is like this really explains the rent money's dead money idea. People, thinking is hard. Thinking is painful for most people. They don't want to think. It's like when math comes, and who wants to sit there and do the math in their head? They want to use a calculator because it's painful to, for most people to really think, right? Especially when it's something difficult, like renting versus buying. It's incredibly complicated, really. It's not as simple as tallying up things. It gets much more complicated. And to check out what I mean now, I'm going to link a video down below to Ben Felix's channel on the 5% rule. It's basically the renting versus buying argument, and he talks about the 5% rule, and you can basically check out that. I'll link that down below. That will give you an idea of how complicated it can be. And because of that, what people basically tend to do is they use this black or white thinking, because, well, obviously black or white thinking is a lot more easy, it's a lot more simple, it's a lot less stressful and demanding on the brain than thinking in grey. And most things in life are grey. Not many things are black and white, and it's no different for renting versus buying. So my point here is a lot of people they're lazy basically, and they like to decide, well, renting's better or buying's better. That's not the case. I'm not saying renting is better. I'm not saying buying is better. I'm saying buying is not always better. In fact, largely, at least in Australia, there's many instances where renting is certainly better from a simple cost analysis point. But remember, there really are two sides to this. There's the, is this affecting my psychological state, my family, X, Y, Z, all these different things. Then there's the pure financial side of it. Now, obviously, I tend to concentrate more on the pure financial side of it because that's the way I think. I'm very analytical. I like to think in numbers. That might not be the case for you. And jumping into these three main reasons, one of them actually is one of those emotional points, right? And again, this is because I'm talking about my personal circumstances. So with that said, let's jump into it. Let's actually start with number one. And number one is going to be that sort of rational, but also sort of a bit more, my personal situation, psychological, emotional point. And that is, I want to keep moving. I want to keep exploring. I'm going to get different jobs that I want to do because they've always been like career goals for me. That's going to involve me moving. I don't want to stay in the same spot yet. I'm not really ready to sort of, I suppose, settle down in that respect, right? So therefore, buying a house for me doesn't make sense because all the tax costs and land costs and selling costs and agent fees and all the extra things that are going to come with buying a house don't make sense if I'm going to be moving every year. Like so far, I've moved at least every year, if not more, since turning 15. So I move all the time. I'm going between Canberra to Sydney to Western Sydney to the Blue Mountains, and I move around a lot, so it doesn't make sense for me to buy a home. Simple, right? So that's the first reason. It can be something simple as that. Maybe in your particular instance, the area that you live, and we'll talk about this a lot more in that upcoming video, but a big thing that determines if it's better to rent or buy is the area that you are living in. In some areas, it's stupid to be renting. You could just buy and save money. And in many areas, let's talk about Sydney, for example, who the hell is going to pay $1 million to $2 million for a house when you can rent a room for way cheaper? And that's actually something I do. I always rent rooms. I don't even rent a house. Again, because if I rent a room, I can turn around and give them like 2 weeks notice, sometimes less, and be like, I'm bloody out of here. Simple. If I'm renting a house, it's harder, and if I buy a house, it's even harder again. So that is a big reason why I'm renting. I'm 20, I want to move around, I want to explore, I want to be able to change, careers and go to different areas and be posted to different places, and it's not going to bloody matter to me because I don't own a house. I don't have to worry about trying to rent it out, the stress of managing it, or paying someone to do that for me. I can just dismiss that and have less worries. And again, remember guys, all of this, remember what the point of all of this is, right? So this channel, finance, all of this has a bigger meaning. It's freedom, it's happiness, it's fulfillment. So if you're just stressed and bogged down by all your financial commitments, but you're making a bunch of money, are you really winning? So it can get deeper. With that said, let's jump into number two. Alright guys, so the next one is something I spoke a lot about in my video comparing stocks to property, which one's a better investment, and I approached that from a scientific perspective, referencing the literature and all that sort of stuff throughout the video. Basically what it is I don't want financial stress. I don't want debt yet. Debt can be a brilliant way to build wealth. We know that. You can use debt to essentially, you can use leverage, right? That's why that's also known as leverage, to literally leverage your position. You can increase your rate of growth greatly using debt, right? It's quite simple. I'll have like an example up on the screen. If you're not really into this finance stuff, yes, but I'm not at a point yet. I'm not willing to put myself in under all the extra stress for that money. All right, so basically, I'm comfortable with where I am and where I'm likely to be without using debt, at least for now. Okay, so for that reason, I don't want to stress myself out. Even from my particular situation, due to the moving thing, it's already not good enough to buy. But let's say that wasn't there. Even then, I would be willing to sacrifice a bit of money now to not have the stress and debt of having a mortgage. Like you have to remember, this is something, again, we'll discuss a lot in that other video. So I recommend you check that out or subscribe if it's not out at the time of watching this. Please subscribe, and you'll see that video. A lot of people, when they get a house, it's painful for them. They're under mortgage stress. It's stressful. They have to make sure they make money. They can't get fired from their job. They have to keep getting enough shifts, or their business has to keep making them enough money. If my income drops to zero, oh bloody well. I've got my savings there. I've got my emergency fund there. I've got my investments there. I don't have to bloody worry. If I put all my money into a mortgage, a house, and I've got this mortgage that has to be paid every fortnight or month or however it is that you've got to set up, that is stressful. So I don't want those chains on me to keep me in one spot to make sure I have to pay this money every month. That you are essentially a slave to a bank. And I'm not saying that's always a bad thing. I'm saying that for me, again, this video is about myself, it doesn't make sense for me to do that at this point. I'm not willing to do that. I don't want the stress of that. I really like the freedom of having no debt. And I don't have debt on my car. I don't have debt on a credit card. I don't have debt on a house. I don't have any. don't even have a margin loan, all right, which is, taking money to invest, which can be a good idea. And you can check out my video where I discuss that, again, from a scientific perspective and talk about if using a margin loan is a good idea or not. And sometimes it is. You can check out that video. Another big part of that, guys, actually is just the house maintenance, the cost of, water, maintaining the house, the council rates, dealing with all those different things, inspections, all these sorts of things that people discount when buying a house. Even just things like furniture. I always rent rooms partly, for cost, obviously, but partly literally just because I don't have to worry about furnishings and fixing things when they break and all that. When I'm renting rooms, it's often the case that something breaks in the house, and you just go up to whoever owns it. Usually they're living there, not always, but usually that's the case. And you go up to them and go, "This is broken," and it's on them. You don't have to worry about it, right? And it's just one less thing you have to worry about. Again, all of this is coming back to just enjoying your time on this earth. So extra stresses for me, again, this is about my personal situation. Maybe this isn't a problem for you. That's fine. But for me, that's the case. So again, that's another thing. Less stress, less worries. That's great for me. All right, guys. So number 3, the third reason, the main reason for myself personally why I rent is basically the areas that I'm living in. It's basically always the case that it's cheaper to be renting. So even if you just do the straight up calculations and you do all the math, which is the most painful thing in the world, if you do it right, it gets very complicated really quickly, and there's all sorts of nuances. It's basically cheaper for me. It works out slightly cheaper for me. So it's like, okay, well, there's that, okay? Because it's possible that I could settle down. It's possible those other two things could be eliminated, and it's possible that it's likely that will happen in the future. But if I'm living in an area which a suburb or a city or a region that it just happens to be cheaper to rent, as it is in many areas in Australia, by the way, not all, but many, well, there you go. And I've spoken about this with other finance YouTubers before. A lot of other people, look, I'm going to be frank, they don't know what they're doing. They're not referring to science, but some do, right? And I've spoken to some other YouTubers before, Australian YouTubers, and we've discussed specific instances where for them, for example, it was better to buy. It was stupid to rent, and vice versa, when it wasn't. And a lot of people just like to use these black or white ideas of it's always good to buy. Okay, it's not. And I know it's not great to think like that, as far as it's more stressful and confusing, and you're more likely to be unhappy with your decisions because it's way more, unsure, right? It's a lot more sure. People want assurance. Okay, there's not a lot of that really, but you pretend and everything just makes you feel better, essentially. So look, they're the main 3 reasons for me. Look, there's a billion other reasons that don't specifically apply to me, but probably apply to you, that I'm going to be talking about in that next video. And that's a whole nother kettle of fish and level of complexity. But look, I hope this has explained to you guys why I rent. Again, one of the biggest reasons alone is just that simple not wanting to stress and not wanting to have to be in one spot. I want to keep moving. I want to keep changing around. I want to explore. I basically always had a goal that I'd like to live in every state and territory in Australia for a bit, about a year. I lived in Canberra for a year, for example. I'm probably going to be heading out west at some point, stuff like that. So, and that's probably going to happen in the next few months, at least at the time of recording this video. At the moment, I'm up in the Blue Mountains. I've been in Sydney, all these different sorts of things. Just my personal preference. That's just me. Again, check out that video coming up. Please hit like on this video. Again, please check out the links down in the description below. Of course, eToro, which is a broker, so you can learn to invest. Basically, I've got a whole investing playlist on this channel explaining exactly how to start investing in Australia, then how to start investing specifically in the stock market. And basically, eToro is a broker, so you invest through them, and they've got a $100 USD bonus. So when you start investing with them, if you deposit 1,000 USD or more, you will get 100 USD bonus. Now, you have to sign up using a unique link, so meaning you have to sign up to the broker using a specific link in one of my eToro videos description. So I'll link the playlist to the eToro videos. Any of those will have the sign up link. Sign up with that, deposit 1,000 USD plus, make a trade of any size, and within 20 business days you'll get 100 USD bonus. But all those details are of course in the terms and conditions. So feel free to go check out that. Please do note that deal is not always running, so always note what the description says. I keep that updated month by month as the deal stops, starts, or whatever it's doing. So free to check out that. Of course, also a free ebook is linked down below as well, so you can download that if that's of interest. That explains how I make money from market research, completely free, nothing to sell you, no catches, all that sort of stuff. So again, thanks for watching the video. Please subscribe and keep tuned for upcoming videos.